So I think she's the one that you want to yell at the least.
People think it's perfectly all right, though, don't they? Her tweet was, Ivanka and Jared at JFK T5 flying commercial, my husband chasing them down to harass them, hashtag banality of evil.
Yes.
But it's not acceptable to yell at anyone in public like that.
Yeah. Totally. I doubt that she did anything
Charles
other than
wouldn't.
existing.
No, Prince Charles.
That's
Prince
our new
Charles would
measure.
not.
What would Prince Charles
What
do
would
and
Charles
do the
do?
same?
What would Charles do?
Yeah.
What would Charles do?
WWCD.
Or what would Donald do? What would Donald do?
Oh, this is...
Nukem.
No, don't.
Head
No,
nukem.
I just thought what Donald would do, and he said it
He
himself, but let's not go there.
He'd incite somebody else to hit him. That's what he'd do. 'Cause
Lisa
that's what he
Scott.
does.
Lisa
I just
Scott.
amazed she flies coach and actually...
Yeah, I know.
She couldn't even get the aisle seat. She was in
Like,
the middle.
what the hell? I know, that was very strange.
Yeah, no, but it probably endears her to Americans that she was on a regular flight.
Tell you, that's takeaway.
Hey, Lisa Scott joining us from somewhere near...
Hello. Yes, I'm in Kerikeri where I'm sending you glad tidings. It's beautiful here.
You've got that far north already.
I have, and I tell you, if someone had told me New Zealand was this pretty, I would have done a roadie years ago.
Really?
I think we've been telling everybody for many years. But
Don't leave town till you've seen the country.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, darling, actually. I've been overseas and I've missed all of the splendour. And not just that, but how sweet New Zealanders are. They're the nicest people. You're miles from your destination and you roll down the window and say, can you give me directions to? And they run into a dairy and get you a map and draw you a picture. That's how nice people are.
And you are miles from your Dunedin home. You
Yeah.
still in a comfort zone up in Kerikeri?
Well, I've decided, having done most of this by myself, I had a bit of a dark night of the soil with a camping endeavour that didn't go very well.
A dark night of the soil.
I wanted to be in the bosom of my family. So I'm with my auntie Jill and my uncle Howard in Kerikeri. And our family's love is very unconditional, so it's very soothing.
Okay, and actually looking at the clock, you're going to be the last person on the phone today, and maybe that's appropriate because you are ending the year on a personal odyssey, and I think you said the other day you were going to throw your troubles into the ocean at Cape Reinga.
I was, and I'm tempted to also set the Green Hornet on fire and push it into the ocean. It's not doing very well on most of the hills, so I don't think I'll do that. But yeah, I'll be flinging off my cares into the sea and starting 2017 with a bit more of a kick-ass attitude, quite frankly. No more of the snivelling, no more of the crying, just a bit more joy in everything.
Are we asking you about gold, silver and bronze medals, or wouldn't you know what we're talking about?
Well, I know I've got some, and I think the gold has to go to New Zealand. It's probably absolutely the most beautiful country in the world.
Hey, here.
Peopled by the kindest, sweetest, most generous people. Strangers have put me up and down, mostly up. And everywhere I've been warned about, North Island got a bashing from South Islanders when I said I was coming
It's
here.
ridiculous.
It
As
is
somebody from
ridiculous.
Christchurch, I agree entirely. North Island's awesome.
It's like South Islanders seem to think that North Islanders are these sneaky weasels who just be
Sneaky weasels.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
It's
And I
bred
think
into
that-
you. It totally is
and
bred
the
into you.
The whole thing is
Sneaky if I
that,
tried.
after you go through a marriage breakup, your self-esteem is in the toilet. But having done this, I think, you know what, I'm a bit marvellous, and we all are, just a little bit marvellous.
Yay.
You're a lot marvellous.
Yeah,
Oh, darling, thank you.
you're pretty marvellous, and we hope you have a fantastic Christmas.
It's going to be great.
I think it will be too. All the best for it. So that's Lisa Scott.
Hooray.
And before we go, I just want to ask you all quickly what you're doing for Christmas.
I'm hosting Christmas at my place.
Lovely.
But I don't cook, so I've given my brother a big list. Hopefully he's home glazing the ham as I sit here.
Oh, you better be.
He better be.
The Walken family does what it always does because we're great traditionalists. We all gather, we eat, we do presents in a certain way. We do it the same way we've been doing it for generations, Jim.
Super, that sounds nice. Penny Ashton.
We always have quite a small one, just the nuclear family, and now my sister has had kids, so she goes between Nelson with her husband, and this year is a Nelson year for them. So we're all about to go to a Japanese teppanyaki restaurant, which is a new tradition, and then on Christmas Day itself, it's just my husband and my parents, and we'll just be very chilled out with a roast lamb. We always have roast lamb.
Thank you for being with us on the panel this year. Drive safely if you're travelling. Come home safely too. And our thanks to our resident panellists today, Penny Ashton, Alan Reid, Tim Watkin.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, you're marvellous.
Oh, shut.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
All the best for the big day and all the days ahead, everybody, in 2017. And we will see you then. Merry Christmas.
RNZ News at 5. No, my Haere mai. Good afternoon. I'm Paul Brennan. China is warning that an investigation New Zealand has just begun into claims of steel dumping is discrimination and will harm bilateral trade. The Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment says evidence provided by this country's only steel maker, New Zealand Steel, justifies an investigation. Phil Pennington reports.
New Zealand Steel claims the Chinese government is subsidising galvanised steel coil, which is causing damage to the industry here. The ministry has 180 days to complete its investigation, plus the holiday period. The Commerce Minister Jackie Dean says China's warning is a matter for them and that the Trade Minister Todd McClay has been in touch with Chinese officials. She says the investigation is a technical matter under World Trade Organisation rules. The Executive Director of the New Zealand China Council, Stephen Jacoby, says exporters here do not need to worry as China's response is par for the course in international trade. This is Phil Pennington.
Chinese state media has warned of a showdown with the United States after President-elect Donald Trump named Peter Navarro, an economist who has urged a hard line against China, to head a new White House National Trade Council. Mr. Navarro has authored books such as Death by China, How America Lost Its Manufacturing Base. China's Global Times says if Washington dares to provoke China over its core interests, Beijing won't fear setting up a showdown with the US, pressuring it to pay respect to China. 5 people are due in court in Melbourne to face charges over what the police say were plans to carry out a major terrorist attack. The Australian Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, says the planned attack was an Islamist plot inspired by Islamic State. Mr. Turnbull says the police and federal counter-terrorism officers did an outstanding job.
What they have uncovered is a plot to explode improvised explosive devices in central Melbourne in the area of Federation Square on or about Christmas Day. This is one of the most substantial terrorist plots that have been disrupted over the last several years.
Malcolm Turnbull. The 5 people due in court are aged in their 20s. The police say 4 of them are Australian-born and the other is an Egyptian-born Australian citizen. Traffic is flowing freely out of all the main centres at the end of the last working day before Christmas for many people. But motorists in the Upper South Island over the Christmas holidays are being warned to be prepared for delays, with most of the main road between Christchurch and Blenheim still out of action due to earthquake damage. Tim Graham reports.
The Transport Agency says State Highway 7 through the Lewis Pass, which is acting as an alternative State Highway 1, will be particularly busy with extra traffic. It says the road is expected to be busiest today, from Boxing Day to December the 30th and from January the 2nd to the 4th. Traffic on Auckland's Southern Motorway is now moving well following an earlier collision, and there are no hold-ups for those leaving Wellington, despite rain this afternoon and an earlier crash that had closed the Terrace Tunnel. This is Tim Graham.
Stewart Island Māori have won a long battle for the exclusive right to harvest kaimoana from 2 Fovo Strait Islands. In a first, the High Court has granted them a customary marine title over 2 of the Titi Islands. Dennis Tepeni applied for the title and had to prove his hapu had used the site to gather kaimoana since the Treaty of Waitangi was signed in 1840. Mr. Tepeni says he took the case to protect the power beds.
I wanted to protect the landings from the commercial power divers. So when we're birding down there, so we get a kaimoana to sustain us through some times where we haven't got no food or anything. But the thing was that the divers have been going down and just pilfering everything. Our diver from Port Wairo, who feeds both our islands, couldn't find the powers because they're all gone. They were too deep.
Rakiura Stewart Island Māori will hold a hui to discuss the decision, and Mr. Tepeni says it will be a great Christmas celebration. Mr. Tepeni's lawyer, Christine Batt, hopes the decision will encourage others to make similar applications. The government has extended the employee support subsidy for quake-affected businesses in Wellington and Hurunui district. The Economic Development Minister, Simon Bridges, says this will provide assurance to those businesses which have been prevented from operating and will be unable to do so for some time. The subsidy will be extended for another 8 weeks to March the 5th. It means the government will pay $500 gross per week for a full-time employee and $300 for a part-time employee. Up to $17.5 million has been set aside for the total business support package. A magnitude 4.6 earthquake hit off the coast of Cape Campbell near Seddon at about 20 to 4 this afternoon. GeoNet says it was centred 20 kilometres east of Seddon and was 30 kilometres deep. The conservation group Sea Shepherd has engaged with the Japanese whaling fleet in the Southern Ocean and says it's one step closer to shutting down illegal whaling there by Christmas. The Ocean Warrior vessel successfully intercepted one of the Harpoon kill ships in the Japanese fleet inside the Australian whale sanctuary just before 6 this morning. Its captain, Adam Meyerson, says they and 2 other vessels are now trying to track down the main ship in the Japanese fleet known as the Nishin Maru, or the floating slaughterhouse. He says finding one of the ships hiding behind an iceberg in thick fog means the others must be nearby. It's just after 5:05. Sport now. Wellington Cricket has dumped its 2 2020 imports, former England international Jade Durnich and Australian Evan Gulbis, following a boozy night out in Nelson. Durnich and Gulbis breached team protocols following Wellington's loss to Central Districts on Sunday and missed a team meeting the following morning. The Wellington Cricket Chief Executive Peter Clinton says the pair's actions are disappointing.
It was a reasonably obvious decision of ours, and it was taken, and we've all moved on.
Peter Clinton. Meanwhile, Wellington Cricket has taken a financial hit after fewer than 1,000 people turned up to the Basin Reserve to watch their exhibition match against Australian Big Bash team, the Melbourne Stars, earlier this month. RNZ understands Wellington Cricket lost $40,000 on the match. A decision on who will replace Ernie Merrick as permanent coach of the Wellington Phoenix won't now be made until after Christmas. When Merrick resigned this month, the club's chairman, Rob Morrison, expected to have a permanent replacement appointed before Christmas, but Phoenix general manager David Dome has now confirmed that won't happen. The Phoenix's performances have improved under their interim coach, Chris Greenacre, and they sit on the cusp of the top 6. Another strong showing against Newcastle United on Boxing Day would seal the job for Greenacre. And that's the news. Coming up tomorrow morning with Kim Hill, Rugby Union CEO Steve Chu on a year of culture change in New Zealand rugby. American science writer Dava Sobel discusses how mid-19th century women contributed to the burgeoning field of astronomy. Poet Hera Lindsay Bird recites a new work. Greg O'Brien gives us a taste of his favourite poets of the year. Graham Reed reviews a big year in music. And Mark Cuby, Kate DeGoldie and Laura Croach provide a rundown of their favourite books from 2016. Kim Hill, tomorrow morning after 8, RNZ National. Short forecast now through to midnight tomorrow Saturday, Northland to Taranaki. That includes Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and the Central High Country. Expect a few showers today. Some could be heavy and hail is possible south of Hamilton. Fine spells with isolated showers tomorrow, mainly in the west. Now from Whanganui to Wellington, also Gisborne, Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, Nelson, Buller, Marlborough and Canterbury. Scattered showers today. Some could be heavy and possibly thundery with hail. Tomorrow, the showers should clear in most places by around midday, and the weather becomes mainly fine, although the odd shower is still possible about Buller and inland Canterbury. Westland and Fiordland, fine spells with isolated showers for Otago and Southland. Cloudy periods, a few showers, mainly near the coast. And for the Chatham Islands, rain develops this evening. It'll be heavy at times tomorrow. That's the weather. It's 8 minutes past 5.
Kia ora everyone, I'm John Campbell, and on behalf of our really excellent team, haere mai, welcome to Checkpoint on RNZ National and our final show of 2016. Over the next hour, we'll be looking back at some of the people we met during the year and at what they are doing now. Let's begin with one of the biggest stories we covered in depth on Checkpoint this year, homelessness. We looked at overcrowding, a lack of emergency housing and affordable housing, and we revealed the huge debts some people owed WINZ for accommodation in motels because there was nowhere else for them to go. First revealed on Checkpoint, people paying up to $1,400 a week to live in a very basic motel, money they were borrowing from WINZ. As the extent of the problem became apparent, Te Puia Marae in Auckland opened its doors to people, an act of generosity and humanity over 3 months, which saw it become a temporary home to dozens of families. And one of the children we spoke with at the marae was TA. TA was 11. Her mum had a job, but she wasn't earning enough to cover the costs of private housing. And the family had slipped through the cracks of social housing provision. So the family of 8 was living in a van. Little did we know that day when TA told me about her life that she would become one of the faces of homelessness.
I am living in Te Puia Marae.
And what's that like?
It's pretty cool. It's cool how they opened up their doors to us. But yeah, I just want a house and that.
And where were you living before Te Puia Marae?
In our van. Yeah.
And who's in your van? Who was in your van every night?
Mum, Dad, my 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and me.
So in total, how many of you?
That's 8.
8 in total in one van. And did you sleep in your van every night?
Yes.
And how long have you been doing that for, TA?
Around February.
So for some months now.
Yes.
And what's that like? Do you get any sleep?
Some nights.
Yeah, if people get sick or if people are wriggling around or you need to go outside for a wee or something, it must be quite tough.
Yes, very.
And where do you shower? Where do you go to the toilet? Where do you get changed? Where do you just get to be by yourself?
There's no space for by yourself. But we used to shower at my mum's job.
At your mum's job?
In the morning, early.
What time?
Around about 6, 7.
So before everyone starts work, you go into your mum's job and use the shower?
Yes.
You went for a scholarship to St Cuthsay here and you sat the exam, did you?
Yes.
And how did you go?
I think I did pretty good for how I do in school, but made it. I just missed out. There are some girls that are more fortunate than me.
How much did you miss out by?
2 points.
So you missed out on getting a scholarship to St Cuths by 2 marks.
Yes, but that's okay.
And you're living in a van.
Yes, it just made me push myself more to do better. Yeah.
Where do you do your homework? Where do you do your homework? Where do you sit to study? Where did you swap for your tests? Where do you write your essays? Where do you do your reading?
Mum's office.
So your mum's got a job.
Yes.
But it's not enough money for you all to be able to afford a house.
Yeah. Houses are very expensive these days.
Yeah, they are. They're very expensive these days. Lots of people are talking about that, TA. TA, what do you like at school?
My favourite subjects are maths and writing.
Maths and writing?
Yes.
And are you good at maths and writing?
Yes, I'm very good.
Good girl. That's something to be proud of.
Yes.
And do you play any sport?
I play netball.
And what position? What's your favourite position?
Wing attack, actually.
What do you want? TA, what do you want most of all in the world?
A library.
Are you going to have another go at that scholarship?
Yes.
And how are your brothers and sisters? Are they all happy?
No, they're not happy, but they're okay.
And are they healthy? Do people get colds? Do people get sick when you're sleeping in that van? 8 of you in one van?
Yes, they're all sick. Even I'm sick right now.
Yeah, I can hear you've got a bit of a sniffle.
Yes.
What's it been like at the marae? Has it been nice to have a little bit of space to yourself?
Yes, it actually has, and they have good food.
Oh, do they? Oh, that's nice. What do you eat normally? What are your family meals? What do you have in the evening for dinner?
Oh, we used to have takeaways, but we're all sick of takeaways.
Because you've got no kitchen, I guess, right? Nowhere to cook, nowhere to sit down around a table and eat. So you just have to get takeaways and eat them in the van, do you?
Yes. Or sometimes we go to parks and drive around and eat our food. The hardest part is actually not being able to read in the van because you don't have space. They're all up in your face.
Yeah, I bet. Wriggling. Have you got little brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Yeah, they wriggle, don't they? They're never still.
Yeah, and there's not much light because we'll waste the battery. I can't read.
Yeah. What would you like to tell the Prime Minister about your life? Have you ever thought about that? Do you know John Key? Do you know about him?
Yes.
What?
I actually studied him.
What would you like to say to him about the fact that you live in a van?
Try walking in my shoes. Not actually that easy.
Since then, TA has moved from the marae with her family into a brand new Housing New Zealand home. One of our wonderful listeners listening to us that day contacted us and offered to pay for TA's tuition at a private school. TA will start a brand new school in 2017. On February 23rd this year, we spoke to Christchurch residents Miranda and Nick Rout. It had been 5 years and 1 day since the Linwood home they shared with their 4 children was destroyed in Christchurch's February quake. But the Routs were still paying a mortgage on it while also renting another house while they waited for their insurance company, IAG, to resolve their claim. An entire part of the house was missing, windows were falling out and a wall was bowing. Miranda Rout had had enough.
I'm standing in what was our main sitting area and kitchen at our house in Britton Street.
Right, for people who can't see, it's just bare walls now. Everything is gone. The interior walls have gone, whatever was on the floor has gone. It's just a bunker, basically.
It is, and if you see round here, there's no glass. It's completely open to the elements.
And this is from the February quake 5 years ago yesterday.
Yes, we came home on the 22nd of February. The chimneys had collapsed. One of the walls I will show you was bowing. It split in another part of the house so you can see into the garden. Everything, linings were out, and we had an internal chimney that was cracking and starting to pop out. So we literally could not live in the house. And we haven't been back since. And this is it 5 years later.
Yeah, so Miranda, for people who are listening on the radio as opposed to seeing it, because the pictures are really striking, this place is a wreck. It actually looks like someone has been in there and seriously vandalised it. Why are you still in the position of having this for your home unresolved by your insurer 5 years and 1 day after the earthquake?
Because they're trying to cut costs. We had a original scope. They said it was going to be $260,000 to repair this house, which we thought was ridiculous, but trusted the experts. They said they were going to jack and pack, and that would be fine. We signed a building contract in November 2013 for a repair date of 4 months. And each time they do more work, they find out that there's more problems with the house. Everybody that saw it thought it would have been bold. The latest was about in 2015, late 2014, we finally had a concession from the builders that scoped it that they made a terrible mistake, quote unquote. I had another conversation with somebody that gave me an off-the-record comment that the engineers actually did say that they signed Jack and Pack because they were under pressure from IAG to cut costs. Now, these are all secret meetings that happen when we're not there. It's always between the builders and IAG and their engineers, and we never attend. And so what happens is that each time they find more work that needs to be done, they say, right, we need to get a variation to approve extra funding, and here we are, 2016, and this is our house.
And are you still paying a mortgage on that property?
Yes, we are, and we're paying rent. We've moved 4 times with my children, 4 times since the February earthquake. After a year, we did start claiming the government subsidy, but that doesn't cover the costs. And so we have been paying rent and mortgage, and trying to keep a business afloat and a family afloat. And then probably the most gut-wrenching thing that happened is that in our garage, we had stored brand new oven, bathroom fixture fittings, sun lounges, silverware, wedding presents, and my husband's toys that he'd had for 2 generations. We couldn't afford another storage unit. We had nowhere else to put it. We got burgled. They've cleaned out the whole lot. About 15 grand's gone and we've got no insurance. July last year, we actually had enough because the hours we spent battling IAG, and we actually employed somebody else. It is now February. We are still waiting for IAG in their dispute resolution process to approve funding to get an engineer and a builder in here so we can scope what the work is needed. And we're still renting, and we're still waiting, And all I get told is, you have to understand, Miranda, that this is an unprecedented event and we do sympathise. Well, sympathy is pretty cheap for IAG. Entire office buildings have been built, and this is a 2-storey house.
So you're still waiting, you're still renting, you're still paying a mortgage, you can't afford storage, so you had your precious things in a garage that has just been broken into and your precious things are gone. What is the impact of this on your life after 5 years of it?
Exhausted. We are articulate people. We're lawyers by profession. And IAG have actually got us to the point we were worn out. The amount of time we were spending battling them, we're actually paying somebody else to battle for us. I actually really feel for people who maybe don't have the same articulate skills and how much they're getting pushed around, because IAG just ignore us. That's it. We just keep hitting a brick wall.
It actually looks like a bomb's fallen on it. So what are IAG suggesting happens there?
Well, we were a repair, but it's becoming more and more expensive and more delayed as they find more and more problems. And I think now they've finally realised that the house should have been built. A builder did admit that during the last meeting we had, that was in 2014. Now, because we've said no more work, had enough, we emotionally can't take it anymore, we don't even want to come back home, we want to cash settle and just try and move on. Now, we instructed somebody to initiate that with IAG in July. It's February.
That was February. Since then, some great news for the routes. 2 weeks ago, they finally settled with IAG. Miranda said the best advice to others still battling with their insurers is to invest in independent engineering and building assessments from the very outset. In late October, Checkpoint broke the story of a terminally ill Auckland woman who was seriously unwell in Middlemore Hospital, but still being kept in prison. Vicky Latelli was sent to prison for 3 years for using fake documents to obtain mortgage finance for low-income families who wouldn't otherwise have been able to get finance, but she then sold those families' properties at a profit. In prison, while serving the early part of her sentence, Vicky Latelli became seriously unwell. She was initially given Mylanta for what medical staff thought was reflux and then treated for an ear infection. It was weeks later before she finally saw a specialist who diagnosed her with terminal gastric cancer. But whilst in and out of prison for cancer treatment in hospital, the Department of Corrections refused to allow the mother of 3 to return home to die with her family. This was her mother, Tui Latelli, telling me about Vicky's prognosis.
5 months. 4 months now.
And you've obviously said that in those circumstances it is not appropriate for her to return to prison, that some mercy and humanity and empathy and compassion has to be exercised. Where is she now?
Yeah. We're still in an emergency, medical assessment. So we're waiting for the palliative doctors to come.
But when that's happened, when her assessments have happened and the palliative doctors have come, where will she go? Where will Vicky go?
Back to jail. We put in for compassionate parole hearing, and last night we got emailed back that it's been denied because her sickness is not exceptional grounds for compassionate release.
Vicky Latelli's mother, Tui Latelli, giving the first interview about Vicky's situation. Over the next fortnight, the Department of Corrections reviewed its decision not to release Vicky Latelli on compassionate grounds. And on November 11, we spoke to her uncle Ula just moments after he had picked her up from the prison to take her home. Ula, are you in the car now?
I am. We've just picked up Vicky and we're going to take her home, and I'm just going to pass you on to her if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ula. Thank you.
Hi, John.
Hey, Vicky, you're out.
Yes, I'm out. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Oh, you don't look that. You don't. Let's talk about who are you with? Who are you with? You got your mum with you? Is Tui there?
No, they're all behind her at the moment. It's just me and Uncle Ulla and my namesake in the back.
You're in a bit of a convoy, a bit of a family convoy's come to
my whole
collect you.
family behind me. We're getting back to my house now.
It must be so good to be going home.
I still can't believe it, John. I just had my first whack of chemo infusion today, and they come and woke me up and told me the good news, and my emotions have just taken over, and I just don't know how to feel at the moment. I'm just so humbled.
All of this has been so big, so fast, hasn't it? And that's a big whack, that first infusion of chemo, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And so where did you have that? Did you come into town to hospital today and then go back to the prison after that? How did that work, Vicky?
Yeah, I left Woody Prison around 6 a.m. this morning, and I had first infusion around 8 a.m. and then left there at 2:30 to come back to prison. And they came in around 4:30, I think, in the afternoon to let me know the news, and I just started crying.
Yeah, I bet you did. Gosh, your family have been fantastic. Your uncle, who you are in the car with, Ulla, your mum, Tui, your partner, Leah, they have campaigned for you with a singular love.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm so blessed, John. I have such great support, and if it, the whole reason for us getting behind and doing it was not just for me, but it's for everyone that is in there, that has gone before me, and those that will come after me. It's for them that don't have the support, and so I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm so humbled, and I'm glad that this is not going to just benefit me and my family, but it's going to benefit the families of those that are still yet to come in my shoes. That no one should have to go through that.
Vicky, this is such a tough conversation to have because you are terminally ill. You have been diagnosed with incurable cancer. Is prison any place to be when you are that unwell and when time is really limited?
Definitely not, no. No, it's no place, and without the support of my family and without my God, there's no way I would have got through what I went through, and I'm just so humbled. I still can't believe it, John.
Vicky is terminally ill. She is still undergoing some treatment, but she says she is grateful for the continued public support, for being released, and is looking forward to spending Christmas at home with her partner Leah, their 3 children and family. You're listening to Checkpoint as we look back over the year, and also this year, of course, the Olympics held in Rio in August. It was our most successful Olympic campaign ever. The New Zealand team collected 18 medals, including 4 gold, 9 silver and 5 bronze. And there are household names: Bond, Murray, Drysdale, Carrington and Pascoe. But the Paralympics in September gave us another one. It was Liam Malone, our very own Blade Runner, who broke 2 of Oscar Pistorius' sprint records, coming from nowhere to win gold in both the 200 and 400 metres, as well as that silver in the 100 metres at his very first Paralympics. I spoke to Liam on his return.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Oh, well, I'm good, but I haven't had the kind of adventure you've had. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm adjusting to reality. My car broke down in the New World car park again, so for me, it is back to being a broke student, mate.
Are you a broke student? First of all, can we talk about the kind of support you get as a Paralympian? Are you able to train full-time, for example?
I wouldn't be able to without the support of my dad. And so funding is based on performance-enhancing grants. So, for example, it's determined on how you did the previous year in a key event. So if you do really well, if you get a placing, first place, you get $60,000, and then it kind of scales back from there.
So wait a sec. So you got 2 first place. You got 120 grand, or am I just getting carried away there?
Mate, you're getting carried away. It's a 60 grand it's only 50 grand for 1 gold, and if you get 2 golds, it's 60, and then it doesn't go any further than that.
And so your dream now is what, Liam? I mean, I'm so sorry, because actually you should just be able to sit there and think to yourself, I'm the man, for a few weeks before people start asking you what your dream is. Well, you won 2 golds and a silver at the Paralympics. And, you know, the 100, the 200 and the 400 are serious glamour events. And you were the best in the world at 2 of them and second best at 1 of them. It's remarkable.
Thank you very much, John. You know, I certainly appreciate that. And to get to that point, I really had to just kill myself at training day in, day out. And for 2 years, I trained by myself in Wellington. My coach is involved with rugby, and so he was based in Nelson and then overseas. So, you know, it took a lot of courage to train day in, day out and stay disciplined and trust the process. And eventually I made it.
Yeah, let's pick up on one of those words, discipline. How old are you?
22.
Yeah, so you started doing that. You started training that hard, when you were 19 or 20, right? Really hard, really devoting yourself to it.
I tell you what, learning to be disciplined is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I bet. Because I think there's a bit of a sparkle in your eye, right? So you would have to set that sparkle aside and train and train and train. And as you say, you were doing it alone, a lot alone. And so what were you working on? Obviously, you were working on strength and speed, were you? How were you training?
So training's based into certain blocks. And so, for example, in the winter, you have kind of like your big, heavy training blocks. You have these big, long, tough running sessions, your big, heavy weightlifting sessions. And as you come closer and closer to your season, your training tapers off and you do more kind of fast, kind of speed workouts. But for 2 years, I had a previous coach before I kind of joined James Mortimer, who I've been with for the last 8 months. And, you know, I pushed him to write me programs where I just run and run and run. I felt like I just needed to, I was basically overtraining for 2 years. But as an outcome of that, I built a massive gas tank. And then, so I had this incredible, you know, aerobic fitness. And then as soon as I met James, we just have basically just been putting in an accelerator to that over the last 8 months. And it's just worked out perfectly.
And Liam, forgive me for interrupting, but I'm really interested in the gas tank. Was the gas tank with the intention of doing the 100, the 200 and the 400? Was that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even if I didn't think I was going to do that well, I'm going to the Paralympics. I may as well get as much as much bang for my buck. May as well do all 4. And even if I bombed out on the 4, then so what? You know, that was my initial thoughts when I first got into the sport. I had no idea whether or not I was going to be fast. It was all very risky. You know, getting all this investment from the New Zealand public where I didn't know whether or not I'd make it. But I just had to do it.
You see, you have this wild hairdo and this big cheeky smile, and so, but in a way, you don't judge the book of you by the cover of you, because you are singular, willful and determined, aren't you?
Yeah, I like to describe myself that way, but I mean, I make mistakes as much as the next guy, you know. Some weekends I'll go out and I'll eat fast food and, you know, I make mistakes as much as everyone else, but overall I'm those things.
Yeah.
And that pulls you in the direction more than anything else.
Which raises the question, how the hell did you know when you started training and set the sparkle in your eyes aside and said, no, you can't go out and be a rascal age 19. You've got to be disciplined. How did you know that you could be this good?
Look, man, I just wasn't having that much fun when I was 19. So my mum passed away the previous year, as I'd explained, and I went over to Australia and I tried to escape it all, and I ended up in a bad environment that wasn't really good for mourning the death of your mother. Then I went to university, which is very much a lifestyle of partying. Again, that's not exactly how to overcome, you know, I was depressed, but not kind of clinically or due to some sort of chemical imbalance. It was just post-mourning, basically, but I was definitely in a state of depression. And so I wasn't having fun, and so I just had to find something that would be fun and an overriding goal to bring me out of that. And goals absolutely kind of saved my life in that respect. And I just knew that I'd do well because I was willing to work at it. You know, and if I had to have worked 12 hours a day, John, I would have worked 12 hours a day. No one was going to outwork me in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
and I joke around a lot, but that's just the truth.
Yeah, that is the truth. One final question, and we really appreciate your time and welcome home. Have you heard from Oscar Pistorius? Because and I know this is a complex issue because he is, a convicted murderer, but he was also the standard, wasn't he? You broke his records. Have you heard from him since?
No, I haven't heard from him. I have no idea whether or not he watched the games or anything. But yeah, he certainly set the standard in terms of what was possible. But yeah, no words from Oscar. I haven't heard from him since he stopped going on. Since he was in home detention and his court kind of case started up again, I haven't heard anything from him.
Well, you are the man, Liam Malone, and congratulations. And you've inspired a whole lot of people. And you should feel really proud of yourself. Thank you for joining us, Liam, and really well done.
Thank you very much for your time, John. I think you're an awesome guy.
Yeah, well, the feeling's mutual, brother. That was Liam Malone immediately after the Paralympics. So how has his life changed since then?
I went straight from Rio back to university. I had my final papers to finish off there to complete my degree in Bachelor of Commerce with a double major in Marketing and International Business. Once I had that finished in November, then I moved back up to Auckland indefinitely for training purposes and had the opportunity to do some speaking engagements. And that's really it. I mean, I'm just sticking with the same process of working hard, stretching myself. I've got a lot of little projects going that I kind of want to get completed in the next 4 years and just kind of figuring out how I'm going to do those. First, I've got to turn myself into a business to be able to, pay off my student debt and whatever else. But yeah, it's just a lot of hard work. I think most of all, though, would be becoming the fastest person on the planet. I think if I can achieve that by 2020, that'd be fantastic. Happy 2017.
Another of the stories we looked at this year began with a question: what does it feel like to be the victim of anti-Māori racism? In May, the New Plymouth District Mayor, Andrew Judd, found out. He announced he wouldn't be seeking re-election after the abuse he received for campaigning for greater Māori representation in Taranaki. When the council voted to establish a Māori ward, a citizens-initiated referendum saw 83% of the 25,000 votes cast being against the proposal. And then things got pointed and personal. So Andrew Judd decided he'd move on. TVNZ's 7 Sharp picked up the story, and its host Mike Hosking declared Mayor Judd was, and I quote, completely out of touch with Middle New Zealand. Then the debate went national, and so did our interview. Almost 250,000 people viewed it on Facebook after it went live to air on RNZ. Andrew Judd began by telling me what people were saying about him.
Things like, if I'd known you stood for this Māori stuff, I would never have supported or voted for you. You're done, mate. Māori don't need special treatment, they just need to be more like us. You're so misguided, Andrew. You're a one-term fella. You're not a politician, you're an idiot. You're a bigot, you're a separatist. You're supporting apartheid. You've got to drop all this Māori stuff.
Andrew, you sound to me like you're reading this list out. Are you taking
I am
notes?
reading my book.
Yeah, so you are keeping notes of what people are saying to you. And who are they? So if we look back on those comments that you've just read out to us, what sort of person is saying that sort of thing to you?
I've had comments like that from people that have just stunned me, which is why I've written it. And I don't want to, obviously I wouldn't say names, but people who are elected, and here's a classic of somebody who's elected. The loser must follow the laws of the victor, Andrew.
So when you say elected, are you talking a fellow councillor there?
No, a politician.
Okay, a central government or a local government politician?
Central government.
And what did he or she say?
The loser must follow the laws of the victor.
Okay, of course there was a treaty, wasn't there? So, in fact, actually, that doesn't really acknowledge that at all, the loser-victor kind of attitude, does it?
John, what it's reflecting is actually the question that I'm posing back to New Zealand, and that is, my gosh, have we moved anywhere? Have we? Then of course I'm thinking or saying, actually, and from my own experience, we've never had a proper conversation with each other in terms of Pākehā to Pākehā. It's like we've got this mental wall, and I say that from my own life's experience. I had no idea of any of this because I've never, ever had to walk in a Māori world. I mean, what was I, 50 when I was elected, and I'd never been on a marae. Yet here I am, the mayor of a province, so rich in Māori culture.
Rich, yeah. I mean, Parihaka is not terribly far away from you. What, 40 minutes drive down the road?
That's right. So I had no idea. I mean, I knew of it as a settlement, but nothing to do with what actually happened, and more importantly, how it all happened. For me, though, that journey, because you probably hear, why didn't you campaign on that sort of this thing? Well, I didn't actually have any idea until because we're going through the process of settlement with Te Atiawa. And that's what started my journey, because I was given some reading information.
Okay, so you started this journey, and since embarking on this journey and going public with your response to the journey, in an odd kind of way, even though you are Pākehā, have you been the victim of anti-Māori racism? Is that effectively what you're saying?
Yes, it's exactly what I'm saying. So I'm not Māori at all, and I've not only come to realise this racism, I've felt it. And I mean, how lucky am I in the sense I can walk away from this job? I don't have to wake up tomorrow as Māori.
People say what? What is the most common argument advanced against what you are saying now?
They need to get off their backsides to stop holding their hands out for special privilege.
And what's your response to that?
Well, some people, it's just so hard to unpack because some have such anger in their voice, and some, you can have start a discussion where there's a bit of sympathy, but it eventually comes to the surface.
Well, people get angry with you?
Oh gosh, absolutely.
And you've been spat at? It's been reported that you were spat at?
Was.
Did that happen?
It did, yeah, early on, and some swearing and stuff. So, and I try not to focus on that actually because, you know, and in part that comes with the job. But behind that, I couldn't judge that person truly because I had to say, well, what motivated that? And I understood what motivated that because that's what I used to say and think. Surely you don't, no one should spit, of course, or swear. But the motivation of that anger is where I've come from all my life. All those cliche, ignorant statements I used to have and feel. And I've had to challenge that in myself. So I'm reflecting to people, look, I'm saying I'm a recovering racist because it was purely based on ignorance and arrogance and privilege, actually, because I didn't have to walk in a Māori world. Becoming the mayor, I had to walk in a Māori world because of obviously you're engaging in a wider sense, like first time on a marae. Then I looked into the eyes of real people that these things have real consequences to, who are still in pain from this. And I think here it's been thrown at me in a public forum. How must Māori feel having to watch all this? How would you feel as a person in your own country? And we wonder why we have such challenges. I've come to say, look, you can throw all the money you like at the challenges around settlement. If we haven't actually had an honest conversation with ourselves about the past happenings and our attitude from it, we'll never truly fix it. And it's not to name, shame or blame. It's to actually understand, to have empathy, to have tolerance, to realise that there are two worlds, actually. Māori have to walk in the Pākehā world, but there's no requirement on mainstream New Zealand to do anything Māori, except have this high almighty attitude.
So the people who listen to you say that and say, I'm sick of hearing about bloody Maori, they want special treatment, we're all one people, we're all in this together, it's New Zealand.
That's right.
And do you hear that?
All the time.
All the time. How many times have you heard this? Just ad infinitum.
Every day.
Okay, so what do you say back to them?
So I've got the answers to just pretty much everything thrown at me now. So the classic one is, we're all one now, Judd, get over it. And I say, well, if we're all one, let's all be Māori. Because what you're saying is, what? Whose version of one are you implying we should all be? Because the reality to that is, we have cultural differences. Yes, we're one country, one passport, one rule, one law, but there are differences. To say we're all one is to disregard the minority of the tangata whenua by implying they should be what? As someone said to me, they just got to be more like us. That's the first one that they're throwing at me. The other one, lady comes up in the street and says, you do realise when Māori get settlement, the first thing they do is go down to Michael Hill and buy gold watches. I said, really? Of course they do. And I said, who? So I said, well, who? Well, they all do it. No, a local iwi here. Come on, Andrew, don't be silly. They all do that. I said, I've never heard of that. Do you really know that to be factual? Or where did that come from? Because I think that's come from someone who's planted that thought in you. Because those thoughts were planted in me all of my life based on no actual knowledge.
Okay, Andrew, I want to come in here because we've got a finite amount of time.
Sorry, yes.
And
I get emotional.
It's nice that you give a damn. That's
I get passionate.
Okay, yeah, that's clearly on the record. But there's going to be dual responses to what you're saying. I can imagine that some people who are listening will be just clapping and saying, "What a wonderful man," and other people who are listening will be saying, "What a PC lunatic."
I get all of that.
Yeah. So how do we reconcile those two strands?
So what I've thought, all I can do as one individual is say this. I'm a European Pākehā New Zealand. I love my country. I was elected to a mayor of a district. I've come to realise what I didn't know. I'm standing up to say from that lack of knowledge, that held an attitude, I am a recovering racist. It doesn't matter what you think of me, and I no longer ask for your vote. I simply say, look into your heart and ask the questions I asked of myself, because only you can answer that honestly to yourself.
It was Andrew Judd in May, one of our most viewed interviews here at Checkpoint after it went to air. He didn't seek re-election, and in October Neil Holden was elected as New Plymouth's new mayor. But Andrew told our producer Bridget Burke he will continue his journey to educate people about racism and the importance of Māori representation.
Since deciding not to seek re-election, I'm pleased that I decided to do that, just observing Don Brash and the rhetoric around the division that I've seen continuing on. But my conversation and journey in that space continues clearly out of the office, and that is in the way of working in the area of peace and inclusion. I've been having some speaking sort of talks around the country, just explaining my journey and where we're at.
When you say peace and inclusion, what is the message?
So, picking up on that rhetoric from the likes of Don Brash and the Hobson's Pledge people, that's really divisive, and that's so unhealthy. It doesn't bring us together. It certainly is not done in a peaceful, inclusion way. So for me, it's around unpacking and starting from scratch around, where we've come from. And a lot of that is actually advocating education in schools around the treaty and the obligation on us all, around our past, colonial past, and the privilege that that's brought. And I continue, there's a petition into Parliament which is opened up right through to December 2017 around the unfairness that the Māori ward process has to go through.
Are you in a position where you feel you can be more effective outside public office?
Totally. So part of my thinking was to step outside that public office box, because sad but true in a lot of ways, once you're a politician, people become suspicious and untrusting of you in general, and people have this, they think there's some hidden agenda because you're in office. But what we have to change is the narrative and the angst and the anger and the fear in our conversations. I mean, things like Hobson's Pledge, whilst they have their right and place to say that, I relate to that because that's how I was raised. I totally associate with what they're saying because that's how I was raised in this country to think and feel. What I'm saying is, from my perspective, I was wrong. That is wrong. That is harmful and hurtful.
What is your goal for 2017?
2017 is to work around the country, speaking to iwi around the representation on particularly district councils, because if the Māori ward isn't the solution, what potentially is, we need to come together to Parliament on this petition in December 2017 with solutions, not just pointing the finger at what's wrong. We need to come up with workable solutions for us all. So I'll be going around the country having those conversations.
What is the petition?
This is around the process of establishing Māori wards on councils. It's a ward seat. We have other seats on councils currently, but only the Māori ward can go to a petition and a poll. The other seats don't. So by very nature, I argue that the law itself is at best biased, at worst racist, because only that decision, as I say, can go to petition.
You were thrust into focus, intense focus.
The solution to these problems isn't for Māori. It's Pākehā. Pākehā is the problem. Pākehā is the solution. I feel blessed, actually, that I was able to discover that, and I hold that as well, for me, I call it the truth, because that's where I'm standing. And now that I've seen that, I cannot ignore it, because if I was to ignore that, I would be condoning how I used to be.
You're with Checkpoint as we look back over the year, and this story took us all by surprise because of how much you seem to have loved it. Early last month we interviewed the makers of New Zealand's first te reo speaking dolls. When Kristen Ross and Hohepa Tuahine became parents, they decided to raise their children in a Māori speaking household. When their daughter wanted a talking doll, they went looking for one that spoke some Māori phrases, maybe some greetings, maybe some Māori songs, but they couldn't find anything, not a thing. So whilst most people would have had a bit of a moan on social media and moved on, Kristen and Hohepa didn't. Early last month, they brought the results of their imagination and tenacity into the studio. Te reo speaking dolls, soft, cuddly, brown skin tones, slightly larger than Cabbage Patch dolls, slightly nerdy looking, but uniquely, when you press the talking button, they speak to you and sing to you in Māori.
So this is Pipi Ma.
Pipi Ma, yep.
And this is Pipi. This is Hura. This is Pito Pōtiki and Titoki.
Okay, so I want to listen. So this is Pippi now, right?
Yep.
I'm going to listen to Pippi. Hold on. So she's saying, my name is Pippi, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is about. I mean, as a family who wants their children to have te reo Māori as the first language, there's nothing out there for us in terms of toys. I mean, we'd walk through the warehouse and through the toy stores, and our kids would love the Elsa singing dolls. And, I mean, she loves, her face just lights up when the doll sings, the songs from the movie. So we thought, man, why don't we have these already? I mean, so we started making them.
We just wanted to make the Māori language normal. You know, it's to be normal, it needs to be seen everywhere. Our kids need opportunities to see the language and hear the language everywhere. It can't be confined to just school or to the marae or to kohanga reo. It needs to be absolutely everywhere. You know, we've done a really good job with our schools and broadcasting. Like, let's think about new industries. Where else can we make our language be heard and seen?
Yeah.
And so who designed them?
So we had a friend that helped us draw some characters, and we came up with the concept a long time ago.
Hold on a sec. This is wonderful because you're market testing this, aren't you? Because you want. Who's this little one?
Titoki.
Titoki. You want Titoki, don't you? Would you like to carry Titoki?
I think she wants a John Campbell doll.
Yeah. Hello. That's the best possible response, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
crazy,
for people listening, the 4 dolls are sitting on the table, but in fact, actually, they just need to be in hands and be played with. So this little guy here, what's his name?
Hura.
His name is Hura.
Hura, and Hura has your voice, Hohepa, right?
Yes.
Shall we just listen to what Hura's got to say? Hold on, Hura. So how many phrases does each doll have?
About 8.
Yeah.
Plus a song.
Yeah.
Plus a catchy little song.
Right. I'm going to keep going until I get a song.
Okay.
And how are you going to sell them? Where will people be able to buy these?
So they're all online at the moment. We launched our website yesterday.
Give us the address.
www.pipima.co.nz.
Pippi Ma?
Yep.
Pippi Ma, which means Pippi and Co, Pippi and Friends, Pippi and the Bros, whatever you know.
Here's a bro.
Yeah.
I love them. And the lovely thing about children is that they are just like a sponge, aren't they? I mean, if you give them language.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny? The example I can think of having have children is Dora the Explorer.
Yep.
You know, if kids watch Dora, they start using Spanish phrases. Outrageously, there wasn't really a Māori equivalent. And here it is. Wait, here we go.
So he just said that the feathers on his head are magic feathers, and they make him fly.
Beautiful. I love these guys. How many are you going to do? How many will you make, do you think?
So these are the 4 dolls of Pipi Ma.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're putting out Pipi and Hura, the first 2. So it's a small, tiny start-up business.
Yeah.
That's what we can afford to put out.
And so you put your own money into this. Did you have backers? So you've just done this yourselves?
We've done this ourselves up
over
until
3
this
years'
point.
time. So it's been a while.
And have you had to mortgage your home, borrow against your... No, sorry.
We've just put every little bit of extra money that we've made, we've just slowly drip-fed it into the project. And
with a view to doing exactly this.
Here we go.
Here we go. Shall we see if there's a song here? Let's see. Ready?
Right after this one.
Ready?
Here we
Good
go.
voice, Hohepa. Okay, here we go. Here's the song. Ready? Now, for people listening on the radio, The little one, how old's this little one?
She's 10 months.
So she's just transfixed by this. Because you were getting a bit restless in here, and now... Oh, and dancing. Good dancing. Did you like that song? Well, our audience loved that interview, and you watched it again and again online too. And within a week of it going to air, all of Kristen and Hohepa's dolls had sold out, and demand became so high, another 20,000 are in production and will go on sale early next year. Finally tonight, 2 nights before Christmas. 2 weeks ago, we had some special guests in the studio across the hall. Taranaki-based four-piece, The Slacks, came in to perform their latest offering, Big Aroha, which was going gangbusters at the time with more than 400,000 hits online. Well, with just 2 sleeps to go until Santa arrived, we asked Marky, Scotty, Blakey and Zane to come back and sing it again to end Checkpoint for 2016.
Big Aroha, that is my tikanga. I learned it from a Maori at the dairy. Big Aroha, that is my tikanga. I learned it from a Maori at the dairy. Well, my friend Jeff said it would be awesome as if everybody spoke in one tongue. Now, fella, said you're right, Jeff. It would be awesome as if everybody spoke in one tongue. Now, fella, Everybody spoke in one tongue, our fella. All that we see, all that we be, we come together in our taki ti ti. Oh, 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 white dye. Big Aroha, that is my tikanga. I learned it from my Maori at the dairy. Big Aroha, that is my tikanga.
And that's Checkpoint. On that note, for this evening and for the year 2016. Thank you for joining us on your radio, your TV, online, Facebook, however you chose to connect with us. It has been a privilege having the conversations with you that we have had. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for listening. From me, John Campbell, our executive producer, Pip Keane, and the entire Checkpoint team, have a wonderful and safe Christmas. And we will see you back here, we hope, in 2017.
RNZ News at 6. Good evening, I'm Paul Brennan. New Zealand has launched an anti-dumping investigation into Chinese steel. China is calling it discrimination and says it will hamper trade with New Zealand. A complaint by this country's only steel maker, New Zealand Steel, that the Chinese government is subsidising steel coil has triggered the 3-month investigation by the Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment. The Commerce Minister, Jackie Dean, is playing down China's warning.
This is a technical issue, and I understand the Trade Minister has had dialogue with Chinese officials over this, and I think it's important to remember that we have a large amount of trade with China, and occasionally issues at the border can occur.
The Commerce Minister, Jackie Dean. 5 people are due in court in Melbourne to face charges over what the police say were plans to carry out a major terrorist attack. The police say they have foiled an Islamist